At my fiancé's family home, his drunk mother sneered. "He doesn't talk about us, does he? Why would he? This place is nothing he'd want you to see." That's when I realized the man I loved had buried his entire past. The words hit me like ice water as I stood on that rotting porch in Youngstown, staring at Carol Harris through the cracked doorframe. Her vodka-soaked bathrobe hung open, revealing stains that told stories of years wasted in bottles. The smell of stale alcohol and decay rolled out of the house in waves, but what stopped me cold wasn't the squalor. It was the 12-year-old girl behind her, fierce green eyes blazing with a defiance that shouldn't exist in someone so young. "You're just going to try to take her money like you always do," Lily spat at her mother, stepping protectively between us. "That's why Michael doesn't come here anymore." Michael, my fiancé, the steady, successful man who'd built a life of quiet competence in Cleveland, who never drank, never spoke of family, never let anyone see behind his carefully constructed walls. Standing in this wasteland of broken dreams and shattered bottles, his silence finally made devastating sense. I'd driven 2 hours from our comfortable apartment, following an address I'd found hidden in his car's glove compartment. What I'd expected to find was answers to his mysterious past. What I discovered was a family destroyed by addiction, violence, and a tragedy that had carved my future husband's heart into pieces. Michael used to come home a lot, Lily told me later as we sat by a gray lake, her small hands clutching gas station cookies I'd bought to earn her trust. Back when Daniel was still alive, he tried to help, tried to take care of things, but Mom would just sell whatever he brought us for booze, jackets, shoes, even my school supplies. Daniel, the brother Michael had never mentioned, the ghost that explained why my brilliant, careful fiancé treated every drink like poison and every family gathering like a minefield. "Daniel was different," Lily whispered, her voice cracking. "He stayed. He tried to hold things together when Michael was away at college. He protected me from Mom's boyfriends. But one night, this guy Tony came after her with a knife. Daniel stepped in." She stared at the water, shoulders rigid with pain that had aged her decades beyond her 12 years. "He didn't make it." The pieces slammed together with brutal clarity. Michael's refusal to discuss wedding plans involving his family, his instant shutdown when I pressed about why his parents wouldn't attend, the way he'd built his entire identity around distance from this place, this pain, this guilt that wasn't even his to carry. "Michael wasn't here that weekend," Lily continued. "Snowstorm kept him in Cleveland. He said later, if he'd been here, Daniel would still be alive. He screamed at Mom at the funeral, told her she'd killed him, and maybe she did." 3 months later, I was planning the most important strategic operation of my relationship. Not a wedding, but a rescue mission disguised as ceremony. As a senior financial analyst at Brennan & Associates, I'd spent 5 years learning to identify systemic problems and engineer comprehensive solutions. Michael's family crisis was just another portfolio that needed restructuring. The courthouse wedding we'd planned became something entirely different when I insisted Lily attend. Michael's hands shook when he helped her with her borrowed dress, but for the first time in years, his smile reached his eyes. My parents, initially skeptical about including a child they'd never met, melted when they saw her fierce pride watching her brother promise to build something better. "I already talked to a lawyer," Michael told me that night, documents spread across our kitchen table. "I want to start the guardianship process. CPS will need to evaluate everything, but I can't leave her there another day." The legal battle took 6 months. Home visits, background checks, financial reviews, character references. The system measured Michael's worthiness to raise his sister against decades of their mother's failures. Carol didn't contest the petition. She didn't even show up to court. The day we walked out with full custody papers, Lily clutched them like armor against everything that had tried to destroy her. Michael knelt beside her on the courthouse steps, his voice breaking as he promised, "You're with us now. For good. No one can take that away." But the real healing began 3 months later, on a bitter November morning when Michael suggested something he'd avoided for years. "I want to take you both to see Daniel." The cemetery outside Youngstown was stark and windswept, brown leaves clinging to bare branches like old grief refusing to let go. Michael carried white chrysanthemums to a modest headstone, Daniel Harris, beloved son and brother. He sank to his knees in front of the grave, shoulders trembling with years of suppressed anguish. "I'm sorry," he whispered, pressing his hand against the cold stone. "I should have been here. I should have protected you." I knelt beside him, wrapping my arms around his back while Lily's small hand rested on his shoulder. "You didn't fail him," I murmured. "Daniel wouldn't want you to live this way. He'd want you to protect Lily, to live the life you both dreamed of." As snow began to fall, soft and silent, Michael drew a shuddering breath. "I forgive myself," he said quietly. Not dramatic, not shouted, but real and final and enough. Now, 2 years later, our apartment fills with sounds I never imagined when I fell for that quiet, careful man in Cleveland. Lily's homework spreads across the kitchen table, mixed with Michael's work files and my client portfolios. Her laughter echoes down the hallway when she discovers some new treasure at the thrift shops we visit together. She's learned to throw a proper punch at the boxing gym where Michael trains. And I've learned to braid her hair into crowns that remind her she's royalty. The Harris family didn't just survive. We rebuilt ourselves from ash and alcohol, from guilt and graves, into something Daniel would recognize and approve. Love didn't erase the tragedy, but it transformed the wounds into scars that tell a story of survival. Some nights I still think about that moment on Carol's porch, when her bitter truth revealed the depth of pain Michael had been carrying alone. "He doesn't talk about us, does he?" she'd sneered, expecting shame. What she didn't understand was that Michael's silence hadn't been about rejection. It had been about protection of himself, his future, and ultimately, of us. Family isn't the chaos you're born into. It's the people who stand with you when the snow falls and the ground grows cold, and the only warmth comes from choosing, again and again, to build something better together. In that choice, the Harris family found not just healing, but hope. And sometimes, when Lily throws her arms around both of us and declares she's the luckiest kid in Cleveland, Michael's eyes fill with tears that have nothing to do with grief. They're tears of gratitude for the kind of family he never thought he deserved, but somehow found the courage to create.